The Hennessy Report from Keystone Partners, a free-flowing conversation with leaders in the HR community, talking about themselves, the industry, and their work. Brought to you in cooperation with NERA, the Northeast Human Resources Association.
Welcome to the Hennessy Report by Keystone Partners. I'm Dave Hennessy, and today's guest is Ted Harding, the CHRO of Apnimed. Apnimed's a company close to going commercial with a drug that treats sleep apnea, affecting approximately 80 million Americans. And he discusses their unique culture to this point and how that culture is going to have to shift and grow as they move into commercial mode. He has some good analogies and good thinking around culture. And I also appreciated his sense of humor. It turns out Ted and I have kind of a similar sense of humor, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Also in this episode, we have Keystone's Coach's Corner coming back, and we have Walt Morgan talking about and giving advice about creating a coaching mindset. And here is Ted Harding. Well, Ted, welcome to the podcast.
Great, thanks. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it was fun to meet you at the book launch for our friends Kim Hazen and Lisa Hazen, the sisters, where they did their book launch for Culture Shock, which just got released a couple of weeks ago, and fun event.
Yeah, it was a great event, and started paging through the book a little bit, and I'm really excited to dig in deep. They bring a lot of knowledge to the subject, so I think it's going to be a great one.
Absolutely. And you told me a little bit about your organization as well. But first, we always start the podcast, we want to learn a little bit about our guests. What's an early life moment that as you look back on it now, it was an inflection point? Can you tell us that story, Ted?
Yeah, I think from a career standpoint, it was probably my first job in biotech. I had a great mentor, Barbara Carter, who hired me. I had no background in biotech at all. And those people in biotech know that's usually a big strike against you. And Barbara was actually looking for someone without that background because she wanted to bring in some new thinking and some new perspectives. So she took a chance on me, which was great. I'd only been at big companies before. Every company I'd been at had an HR department that was bigger than the company I joined, Transform Pharmaceuticals. So, when I joined, it was just such a different way of doing HR. When you, not only do you know every person you're dealing with, you know their families, right? And you know them in depth versus they're just numbers on a chart or something like that. And so I really learned a different way of doing HR and the power of like a really, just aligned and excellent culture. And for me, I didn't know what I was missing until I was in the middle of it. And it was just amazing. And it really kind of helped catapult, I think, the rest of my career.
I hear that a lot from HR leaders inside biotech, because most biotechs are smaller, first of all, right? So you know everybody and you know them personally. And, even Kim Hazen talks about that. We were just talking about her, and Stephanie Fedak, who I was just meeting with recently. It's it's a different kind of HR leadership. It seems like your industry treats people on average. I can't say that about every organization, but on average, I think your industry treats people pretty well inside a company.
Yeah, and we kind of have to. I mean, it's one of the things that makes HR fun in biotech. A lot of why people go into biotech is they really love the science, love making an impact on patients, on human health. And, frankly, you can do that at any biotech company. So that's not a differentiator for a biotech company. What ends up being a differentiator often is the culture. And how do you treat your people? What does it feel like to work there? What are the career development opportunities that I have? What's the support I have? The team engagement. That's what makes, working at one company or another, I think the real difference maker for people. Because you can, particularly in Cambridge, the joke is you can change your job 10 times and never change your parking space.
That's right. Yeah, it's convenient for a lot of people, especially if they live in Kendall Square.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about Apnimed.
Sure.
Apnimed.
Apnimed.
I said it wrong.
That's all right. Yeah. So Apnimed, we're a small company, about 60 people. We are in the space, broadly speaking, sleep-related breathing disorders. Our most advanced program just completed 2 positive phase 3 clinical trials. That's super exciting. For those of you who don't know biotech, that's huge to get to that point. and it's for a drug that treats obstructive sleep apnea. So right now, if you have obstructive sleep apnea, the treatments out there are suboptimal. You have a CPAP machine that basically
Hmm.
blows as much air as you can handle into your lungs all night long, or a mouth device that's a little bit uncomfortable to try to wear and maybe not as effective, or this new device that basically puts a pacemaker that attaches to the back of your tongue and shocks your tongue all night to keep your throat kind of taut. So this will be the first drug in the space to really help open up that airway when you're sleeping. Once a night pill, works really well and can make a huge difference in the lives of people with OSA.
So the medicine only affects the tongue muscle somehow?
Yeah, so I'm not a scientist. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I think there are some broader, systemic effect a little bit just in terms of the mechanism, but it does seem to be
It's
really
targeted.
focused heavily on the tongue and the throat area and keeping that area taut, because when we're awake, all our muscles are taut, right? And so breathing is much easier. When you go to sleep, all your muscles relax. And if you have obstructive sleep apnea, often what's happening is your throat, your tongue relax too much. And so this helps keep them a little bit more engaged.
Well, this is exciting. It sounds like you said you're going to the commercial phase soon, Ted. Is that what you're
Yeah,
planning
that's what
for?
we're headed towards. Yeah. So we're getting ready to file our NDA and then off to commercialization.
Wow. Well, and you mentioned, why don't you talk a little bit about the culture of the organization? Because I imagine the things you're going to have to do might upset that or make it even better, or you're going to build growth and maintain that culture. Can you describe what the culture is now? How would you describe it? How have you fostered it as an organization, as an
Yeah.
HR team?
Yeah. I mean, so I've been at the company for 2 years. It's been around for 7. And I think the culture is really phenomenal. And it starts with the founders who started the company. A really connected company. That's one of our values is being connected, not
Connected.
just internally, but externally with patient groups and doctors and leaders in the field. And we're a virtual company. We have a small office. A few of us come in the office a couple days a week. Some come in the office a little more, but most people never come into the office.
What?
And if you'd asked me 2 years ago when I joined the company, would you be interested in joining a virtual company? I'd say, no, I really like the human interaction, the face to face, the conversation. And Apnimed really has it figured out in a lot of ways. It is one of the most connected companies I've ever been at, even given that most of the time we're just talking to each other on Zoom. But we do a lot of things to try and help that engagement. We get to know each other.
What do you do? Because I know a lot of companies that are virtual really struggle with that, always on Teams or Zoom kind of thing. And what do you do to foster strong connections?
Yeah, I wish there was one silver bullet. I could say we do this and that's what makes it all happen, right? It isn't. It's so many little things that add up to it. And so for us, some of them are, you know, we started out, we had meetings every day of the week, 30 minutes, everybody in the company. Now, at that time, everybody in the company was 20 people. Um, as we grew, we continued those meetings, but we have them a little less frequently because some of the feedback was, it's a little bit too much.
Hmm.
But now we're having 2 meetings a week, everybody in the company, and we talk about what's going on. And it could be something that's going on the science side, something in the clinic, something commercial, something in med affairs, whatever's going on to keep us all engaged on the broad running of the company. We also try to have a little fun and get to know each other a little bit better. We introduce every new hire who comes in and they talk a little bit about themselves. We talk about our weekends, so there's that. There's, a couple times a year, we get the whole company together. That's expensive, but we save a lot on rent. So maybe that balances out. But
That's right.
we'll come together and it really feels like a family reunion in a lot of ways. My first one, people had told me that and I was like, okay. And then I went, I was like, yeah, it really is. I mean, you're hugging people. Oh, I've never met you before in person. This is great. You're way taller than I thought, way shorter. And we try to have fun and do the things that really you can only do in person versus what we do in our daily meetings.
Do you go outside of this geography? Where do you go
Yeah,
for these? Yeah,
yeah,
different places.
it's
Yeah.
a great point. Yeah. So we typically have one meeting in Boston. We do that in the fall timeframe typically because Boston and fall is great. Fall, summer kind of timeframe. And
Hmm.
then we usually have one in the winter timeframe. And, you don't really want to come to Boston in winter.
No.
And since we're virtual, we really could go anywhere. So typically we pick somewhere warm. So Miami, New Orleans, and we try to incorporate, a fair amount of fun as well as, engagement. If for some
It's both.
reason There's always a
Yeah.
boat ride. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever meeting we have, there's, boat ride on the Charles, or we, you know, did a riverboat on the Mississippi in New Orleans, and a cruise around the Miami Harbor. But, you try to mix that fun with the work to help with the engagement.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds like those are great events for the company. We're talking about culture. I saw something posted that I thought it was an interesting take on culture. I want to get your reaction to it. It said culture isn't just what you espouse and say, it's what you'll allow inside your organization. And what's your reaction to that, Ted?
Yeah, I think it's a great way of thinking about it. I think it's even more than that, right? Because what you say, if it's not what you live, that's what drives cynicism, right? That's what
Mm.
really drives people say, "Oh yeah, well, we say we're a teamwork culture, but we don't do it.
We say we're about connection, but
Say we're
yeah,
about
right. Yeah,
connection,
right.
but here's all the reasons we don't do it." So yeah, I think it's what you allow, both in the positive sense, what you make space for. So one of the things we do, we have three values: passionate, connected, and bold. And we talk about them regularly. We talk about how some of us are living those values at work or outside of work, and kind of bringing that. So it's a way to get to know each other, but a way to, we're making space for those values. And then there's, what do you allow that maybe doesn't conform to your values? And if you allow it, well, then that's part of your culture and that's who you are. I always, big saying that, people use that I really live by is, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. That's who they are. And that's the same with companies. What do you do? Not what you say.
Now you're embarking on a change management process, it sounds like, and going to commercial. How are you starting to think about it? How have you been through this process before in other companies, Ted, going
Yeah, so I've
commercial?
been through the process in the sense of shifting from one phase to another. Usually it's from research to clinical. In biotech space, that's often as far as you get. I did at one company, we got, positive data. We were going towards an NDA, going to go towards commercialization, and then we got acquired. So I've done some of the prep work here, but I've never gone all the way. And so I'm really excited about being part of a company that's, looking to commercialize its own drug. And it's a transformation process. It's a change process. I like to think of culture as a child, right? Or as a human, right? If you think of a baby, it's the most beautiful human you can imagine, right? It's perfect, right? Like, if you ever hold a baby, you just feel good holding a baby, right? But you never look at the baby and say, I never want you to change, right? Stay a baby your entire life. No, you want that to become a
It has to
toddler,
evolve,
adolescence, and early adult.
right?
And that's the same as culture. So, it's not about how do we keep the culture we have, it's how do we grow the culture into what it needs to be. And sometimes that's painful, right? Adolescence isn't always fun. The terrible twos aren't always fun. We had to do a reduction in force because we had a awesome, amazing clinical team that drove an amazing program to get us the data we had in record time, under budget. I mean, they just did a phenomenal job, but we're not running any more phase 3 clinical trials at the moment. And so we just had too big of a team. And it's really sad to let people go. We tried to
Mhm.
do everything we could to live our values and supporting them as they left. But there's no getting around it. That's painful. It's hard.
Yeah,
Um,
your analogy is a good one about, the human growth, right?
yeah.
From a child. It's not a bad thing, but there's different things that you're going to have to do, and there's different challenges, and it's not all uphill. There's going to be some setbacks. So are you talking to other people who have been through it in the life sciences arena, have gone all the way to commercial? Are
Yeah,
you
definitely.
benchmarking?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good to have colleagues who are either in commercial companies or have gone through that commercialization process. There's not a lot who've gone through the process from
right.
not commercial to
Most
commercial.
don't get all the way there,
You don't get
and
all the way there. Usually you get taken out.
right.
But it's nice to have those. And then there's other development opportunities where I've, met people who are kind of in the same stage we are, where we're all going through it together. And so, yeah, having those colleagues to rely on, both inside and outside HR. One of the great things that we have at Apnimed, we've got some great leaders who've been through that commercialization process. Our chief commercial officer, our head of medical affairs. I mean, they're great people, but they have great experience, and they're really good partners to work with, to help us think about not just how do we build an organization and get the skills, but how do we build the culture we're going to need to succeed.
And when you think about talent, what are your concerns, and what are the things that you need to do to get ready for commercialization?
Yeah, I think, concerns are, getting the people we need at the time we need them. That, when you go through kind of a high growth phase, um, that's always a challenge, and integrating them into the culture you want to be. So I had another colleague I worked with, Dana Helm, phenomenal. And she had a great way of phrasing it. It's not looking for a culture fit, it's looking for a culture add. So who's
Ah,
going to help
yes.
add to your culture in a way that you need to bring it? Not so far outside the culture that the culture is going to reject them, but someone who's going to help you move in the direction you need to. So being able to do that, where we may a year or two from now be 3 or 4 times the size we are, and so how do those newish people, integrate into a culture and build a culture that has a lot of positive attributes and some that we probably need to move on from. So
I imagine you're looking at all new skill sets too, right? Or
a
very
lot of new skill
very different
sets.
skill
A lot
sets.
of new skill
Yeah.
sets. Yeah, again, it's great having a chief commercial officer, head of med affairs who kind of have been there, because they'll have discussions with me, and I'm like, I had no idea someone even did that. So
Is
we're
there something that comes to mind that you can throw out there that
Yeah,
surprised
yeah.
you?
So we're bringing people right now who are dealing with payers, with the CVSs of the world, the Medicare, VA.
Right.
We're not even a commercial drug yet, but we need to
But
be
you need
talking to
that
them.
talent now to prepare for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because when we hopefully become commercial, we want to get reimbursed, right? And if they haven't planned for it, well, then that may not happen. So it's,
Right.
the skill sets around that they're just really interesting.
Right. Yeah, I guess you went in from just solving the therapy problem to, okay, getting it to the people that need it now, right?
Yeah, which is
It's a very
dealing with
different job.
payers, supply chain,
Yeah.
advertising, just the doctors. I mean, for a lot of biotech companies are can be orphan disease companies, and not that that's not hard. It's very hard, but when you think about the doctors, you can identify who those doctors often are who deal with that orphan disease. Sleep apnea should be treated by a general practitioner, right? It affects 80 million people in the U.S. You can't do that with specialists, but it's
80
not
million.
today.
That's like a quarter of the population.
Yeah, yeah, and it's huge. And the problem is, it's the model today isn't that. The model is a small number of sleep specialists who deal with a lot of this, and so the system is backlogged. The testing for it is cumbersome. You have to go into a sleep lab and spend a night and get tested. And
So how many
how
people actually go through that process?
yeah, and how
Not many.
valid is that test? I mean, you don't sleep in a lab every night with wires hooked up to you. So that's in and of itself going to give you a misleading result. So there's a lot changing in that space.
Yeah.
We've got a diagnostic that's helping us, do some home sleep testing. There's others who are in that space. There's hopefully doctors learning more about sleep apnea and sleep. But so a lot needs to change in that space. But man, it could just make a huge impact on the health of people in terms of
Yeah, right. The connection between sleep and other diseases and health problems is
yeah. I had no
immense.
idea when I joined. When I first started working with Apnimed, I was a consultant, and again, similar. If you said, "Do you want to work on a sleep apnea company?" I would have said, "No, no, no. I worked on cancer
Would
companies."
you say, let me sleep on it?
Yeah,
No,
that would
I'm
have been
sorry.
good. That would have been good.
Sorry.
But then I learned, oh, no, it's not just sleep apnea. Sleep apnea causes cancer, causes heart disease, early death. The emotional toll on people's lives. I mean, people who, partners who can't sleep in the same bed because the one partner is keeping the other one up all night with their gasping and breathing. Just people with sleep apnea not being able to connect emotionally. People, getting in car accidents because they're falling asleep. I mean, there's so
Wow.
much that happens that it can have a huge impact on people's health.
Well, this is important work that you're doing at Apnimed. So fantastic luck for the next
Thank
chapter.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to bring in our producer, Megan Mandino. She always asks the NERA question of the podcast. We produce the Hennessy Report in cooperation with NERA here at Keystone. Megan, you have a question for Ted, don't you?
Hi, Ted. What advice would you give early career HR professionals about how to transition from a generalist role to developing deeper expertise in specific areas? And how did you decide what path to follow?
Yeah, I wish I could say I had a great map and a plan, but I didn't. When I first started in HR, I was coming out of school. I wanted to be the head of HR of a Fortune 500 company. And I was so lucky that one of my first jobs in HR, my first job, I got to work, pretty closely with the head of a Fortune 50 company. And I learned really quickly, I did not want that guy's job. He's a wonderful person, but he did nothing all day long that I was interested in at all. It wasn't his fault, but that's what was needed. He was dealing with board issues and executive comp issues and regulatory issues and all these other things, not how do we help people be the best they can be. And that's what motivates me. So I learned pretty quickly, okay, that's not the path. And now I got to figure something else out. So I'd say, pay attention to what you enjoy, pay attention to what you love, pay attention to what kind of motivates you. And, some people you can get to, a head of HR role in a variety of paths. There's no one way to get there. You want to learn broadly. I think another thing I'd say is take the road less traveled. One thing that I did in my career is when I had a choice between kind of an easier path and a harder path, I took the harder path. And
what was that, Ted? What was the harder path that you're talking about?
So many. So I was at a company in the South, an electric utility. I was doing really well, like the people, like the job. I was well thought of. But I had an opportunity to move to the Northeast and go into telecom, a different industry, different space, starting over again, different reputation, and I did that, and it was hard, but I benefited from it. Or when I first took that job at Southern Company was the name of the company, electric utility, I had a choice. I said, well, you can go to Atlanta and we have a job there. You'd kind of be supporting a generalist. It'd be a good job, but we have, I think, a more interesting opportunity for you in Birmingham. The only thing I knew about Birmingham in 1996 when I joined the company was, fire hoses and dogs. It was not a positive impression that I had of Birmingham. It was just ignorance, but I didn't know anything about it. But the way they described the opportunity, it sounded a lot more challenging. And so I said, all right, let's give it a shot, and ended up having a great time in Birmingham, made some great friends, and learned a ton. But I think, naturally people don't do the hard thing. Like if you have a choice between the hard thing and easy thing, you go towards the easy thing. So I think someone who will take on that hard thing, you build skills and you gain experiences that others just don't have.
This is kind of along the same path, and it sounds like you would certainly give this advice to others to take on those difficult challenges, those new opportunities. But maybe there was something you wish, if you could get advice to your earlier self, when maybe your 25 or 30-year-old self, if you could write a letter, dear Ted, something you wish you knew then.
Yeah,
what would you write?
And this may not apply to everyone. It's something I still deal with today. Is be more humble. Don't think you know everything. Coming out of school, came out of an Ivy League. I went down south. They were starting this whole program to build the HR generalist of the future. And I was in the inaugural class of that. So I was really excited, maybe a little bit full of myself, and probably came at it that way, and turned a lot of people off. I remember having a discussion. I at a certain point, a couple years in, I was supporting 3 different power plants. 2 of them had what I considered to be really thoughtful, progressive, really strong leaders. And then there was one I supported who I thought was a little bit, retro. And that was his reputation. That was my experience with him. And so I don't think I gave him the respect that he deserved. And, at a certain point, we were doing employee opinion surveys. And this plant that he managed had great results on everything except for stress. And part of his compensation was tied to the results of the employee opinion survey. So it was important to him. And the stress question was, does doing more with less negatively affect your health? Now, I put on my big Ivy League hat and I said, that's a bad question. Of course. How are you going to answer that question?
Everybody would say
yes.
yes.
Doing more with less, that's great. I love that. No, of course you're going to say no. So I went about proving that we don't have a stress problem. So I looked at absenteeism. I looked at injury rates. I looked at healthcare utilization. I looked at overtime. Every metric I could think of to prove that we don't have a stress problem. And I went into a plant manager's office and I sat down and I said, let me tell you, we don't have a stress problem. Let me tell you why. I went through my presentation and he said, thanks a lot. I appreciate your input, and your services are no longer required here. And I went, oh, okay. And it was a good learning. And one of the other client managers took me aside and he said, yeah, look, you might be right. It doesn't matter. You didn't have the relationship with him to be able to tell him that, right? You needed to go in and you needed to build a relationship with him before you could confront him the way you did. And that's just, you're not going to be successful being right. You got it's both being right, but also having the relationship and the influence skills. And so that was really, really important to me.
That's a really great lesson.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Ted, we're going to the fun part here. If you could be any
Wait, this hasn't been the fun part? We're going more?
Oh, it's all fun. Yeah. That's good. If you could be any fictional character, who would it be?
If I could be one, I really love is it Edmond Dantes from the Count of Monte Cristo? If you haven't read the book, the way I picture him is, the ads you see now, the Dos Equis ads, the most interesting man in the world, right? Like he can do anything. And that was Edmond Dantes. I mean, a guy who got locked up in prison, figured out how to escape from an inescapable prison, went from being, poor with nothing to one of the most wealthy and influential men in the area. Now he had maybe not some great traits around his vengeance and did it all to get back at people. But overall, I thought a really interesting character.
Well, speaking of laughter, what makes you laugh? What's something that's unique to Ted that really tickles your funny bone?
Yeah, I don't know if it's unique to me, but dad jokes is whatever they're characterized, right? I just love them. And, and the thing is, I don't care that nobody else does.
The same way.
I tell my kids and my wife, my friends all the time, I say, look, my jokes are for my amusement. If you enjoy them, that's great. If you don't, I don't care. I'm telling them for my amusement. If you want to tell jokes for your amusement, have at it. But my job isn't to amuse me. It's to make me happy. And I love them.
I love them too. The one recently, I had a dentist appointment. Guess what time it was at, Ted? You probably heard this.
No, I haven't.
At 2:30.
Oh, wow.
So
right.
we'll end on
that's a bad dad joke. I like
Well, bad jokes and dad jokes, that rhymes.
It's pretty close. They're pretty close. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
Ted, it's been so great having you on a podcast. I'm so thankful to the Hazen sisters for bringing us together.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. It's been great to meet you.
Well, hello, Walt Morgan, and welcome to Keystone's Coaching Corner.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to join you today, Dave. This is a real treat for me.
It's a treat for me because I got to know you. I know you've been doing work here with our clients, but I really hadn't seen you present very much until we had our all company-wide meeting just recently in October. And I saw you talking and advising our whole organization about how to use a coaching mindset. And I thought that would be a great thing for us to share on Keystone's Coaching Corner as part of the Hennessy Report. So I'm glad you accepted. And I want to just tell our audience, you're a unique person in the world of Keystone, because not only are you one of our executive coaches and work directly with our clients, you are also part of Keystone's, the Center for Executive Coaching, where you help others become coaches. So you bring a unique skill set and perspective to this world.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a real treat. I mean, Keystone has such amazing clients. I've gotten to work with these really amazing people, but I'd also say the Center for Executive Coaching, oh, it feels so good. We bring in such amazing coaching candidates, and to be able to work with them and support them in their development as they become the coaches that they're becoming, so that they can go out and serve in important ways is a real honor. It's a joy. It's a treat for me.
Yeah, several of my clients have HR people who want to either coach as an internal coach or an external coach, have gone through the training there with you and the others at the Center for Executive Coaching. And I hear just fabulous things. They love it. And they love the resources that are ongoing after you go through the formal trainings that you deliver. So let's talk a little bit about a coaching mindset. What advice do you have for our audience today, Walt?
I don't have so much advice. This is the coach in me as I do an invitation, right? I am excited to talk about coaching mindset though, because it's so important. And I'm also excited to be able to offer a tool that I think can bring value to your audience and something that will allow them to create even more connection with their teams. So this first thing is, what is a coaching mindset? Because I have noticed in recent years that this is something that shows up often in articles and professional journals, and it's something that shows up in magazines. It's something that I hear on podcasts, just like we're discussing today. And I want to make it as simple as possible. So when I'm talking about a coaching mindset, what I'm talking about is less solving and more curiosity. I'll say that again: less solving and more curiosity. So the first question is, why does this even matter? Why is this important? So the year is 2025. And in this moment, high performing collaborative teams bring the value to the workplace. And we have shifted from a traditional command control structure into something that looks different. And the shift is really about a shift from power over to power with. And that is a significant change. It's a significant way of approaching the workplace. And it's what the coaching mindset allows for. And when I think of it from a leader's perspective. It's an opportunity to sometimes be less directive and more inviting. And when I say more inviting, like more inviting for what? It's an invitation to partner. It's an invitation to show up authentically. It's an invitation to be committed and to collaborate. So we offer these invitations sincerely through our coaching mindset, and we create something that's even more powerful than we would without the coaching mindset. And the research really backs this up. The research tells us that those workplaces that employ a coaching mindset from the leadership on down actually invite more empowerment and collaboration. They invite more individual development, higher productivity, higher purpose, and greater retention. So the benefits of this are really pretty significant. Now, when I coach clients who are interested in incorporating a coaching mindset into their work, they're initially a little skeptical, right? They have these belief systems and they have these fears, and they say, well, if I'm being less directive, if I'm driving solutions less aggressively, and I'm stepping into curiosity, then what value do I really bring, and how effective will we be as a team, and how quickly will we move? But what the coaches find through practice pretty quickly is that when they employ a coaching mindset, they are more effective. Things move along more quickly, and they're actually bringing more value to the organization. So that's my big plug about why should we embrace a coaching mindset, sometimes at least within our organization. It's not, the point isn't to dismiss authority. The point is to invite partnership and collaboration and to do great things as teams.
Well, you've sold me, Walt, but I
Okay.
also think you probably have a tool that you can
I
maybe
do.
help
I told
people.
you up
Just
front. You
stop.
knew I had a tool, Dave, because I told you I had a tool at the
I'm
beginning.
listening, Walt.
Okay, you're a great listener. I appreciate that. So here's the tool. We call it the pause, paraphrase, and pause. And it's the 3 Ps. It's pretty much what you think it is. Now, you can use this tool anytime in any conversation, and I think it brings value. For me, it's become such second nature. I don't even feel like I'm practicing it anymore. It's just become part of how I show up as a partner in conversation, as a listener. You can use it anytime, but here's my invitation to your audience. Use this in a very specific time as practice. And that specific time is when you are having a conversation with a peer or somebody that reports to you, and you can already feel yourself moving into solution. You can feel yourself saying, oh, I know what to do here, and I'm about to tell them what to do. Catch yourself in the moment, because that is a great opportunity to bring your coaching mindset. So this is how it works. The first pause, the other person's talking, you catch yourself wanting to solve, you take a deep breath, You remind yourself to be a good and generous listener. And then the person finishes talking. And then you pause and the person feels fully heard. How often in our day do we feel heard? To quote Lincoln, it is such a joy to be comprehended, right? We've just invited their partnership simply through that pause because they know that we weren't formulating a response, that we were truly listening, and that we waited fully for them to end rather than responding the second they ended, or even worse, not waiting until they ended. So, and interrupting. So now we offer that first pause. And then coming out of that pause is the paraphrase. And we simply repeat what we just heard. What I think I heard you just say, or what I just heard, or is if I'm understanding correctly, and then just paraphrase it. And then we get to the next pause. And this is my favorite part of the tool because I call it the pause of possibilities. You have no idea what's going to happen after this pause, and that's okay. You've just created an openness and a situation. But these are some of the things that might happen. The other person might come back and say, no, that's not what I intended to say at all. Fantastic. Now we can move to a place of understanding. Or they may say, yes, that's exactly it. And now they feel heard. What a powerful moment between you and this other person. Or maybe they don't step into that space at all. And after that pause, then we have an opportunity to step in that place. And that is the perfect spot for a powerful open-ended question. This is our chance to say, so what's next? What do you recommend? How can I be most helpful to you? And now we're truly fulfilling that coaching mindset by inviting them in partnership to solution and to possibility. And they feel heard and committed. So that's the tool.
Loved it when you said it to our whole company. I love hearing it again right now. You know what is interesting too, that the second pause doesn't automatically include a question, because it sounds like you really just give them the chance to say something next. You might have a question, but you might not need one because they might jump in. Is that what, do I understand that right, Walt?
No, that's the perfect, you're making a really great point there, because our executives so often throughout the day are so in control of everything that's happening. This is a real opportunity to sacrifice that control, because that's truly what partnership is about. Look, the authority's still in place. The executive has not lost their authority, and they're inviting partnership. Both of those things can be true at the same time. So as we move into that second pause, we don't need to control the outcome of that. It's just allow us to sacrifice that control in the spirit of partnership so that we can invite something, and then we accept whatever happens coming out of that. But it doesn't have to be a question, and that's one of the possibilities.
It also sounds like it's something that could improve relationships between somebody that's any two people inside an organization, that kind of behavior.
Absolutely. Nice. So the research shows us that for a beginning individual contributor job, 90% of the job is technical and tactical, and 10% is relationship based. But that changes by the time they're a VP. And by the time they're a VP, it is just the opposite. It's 90% relationship and 10% technical. It's just a veneer of technical capability. So relationship is the key, and you hit the nail on the head. The relationship is what emerges from this kind of listening and this kind of conversation, in which we don't solve in the coaching mindset. I don't know. Do we have time today? Do we have time to practice or to demo this?
I'll try. I'm eager to dig in on this with you, Walt. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sincerely curious as well, Dave. And what I'm particularly curious about is if you're encountering anything challenging in your life right now or in your work.
You know, I am. I was thinking about this recently because Keystone has grown so much, Walt. I've been here for 25 years. And I think a lot of people, especially in the Boston area where we were founded 40 something years ago, think of us as an outplacement company and a coaching firm where there's coaches. And so I think my challenge is I want to make sure that our clients and future clients know about all the other things we're doing, like the work you're doing at the Center for Executive Coaching, like the work we're doing in manager training, like the geographical expansion that we've gone through. And I struggle with how to change the mindset of the clients who know Keystone historically, and maybe even me, because my brand's connected to Keystone as well, as just an outplacement and a provider of coaches for solutions. So that's a challenge.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So what I'm hearing is you've been with the company for 25 years. The company's been here for 40 years, and it's established itself on being outplacement and coaching. And during your time here, it's become so much more, and you're excited by what it's become. And you're also challenged by the opportunity to articulate everything that Keystone offers.
I think that's true. Like, I think I can articulate it, but how do I change in addition to that, Walt? How do I um, make sure that people see Keystone differently and see me differently because of all these things? So sometimes I can articulate it, but does it stick? Does the message stick with our client base and with future clients?
No, that was really an important amplification. It's not just about articulating. You have a really clear sense of it. What's hard is to change the understanding of it. And so that it's fully, is it fair if I use the word rebranded?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
And then I would love to continue this conversation for another hour because I'm so genuinely curious about this.
But you definitely
Again,
demonstrated the coaching mindset with me. That was good.
and and that was my hope. And how did that feel for you?
Well, it felt great. And Walt, I knew it would be. I just getting some exposure to you in the last few months. You're an amazing coach and leader and coach of coaches. So thank you so much for carving out some time out of your very busy schedule, which I know it is. We've got you doing a lot of different things around here, a lot of great things. So thank you so much, Walt Morgan.
Thank you again for allowing me to be here today, Dave. It's great chatting with you.
Thank you for listening to the Hennessy Report from Keystone Partners. Be sure to subscribe to listen to all of our conversations with leaders in HR. Go to KeystonePartners.com and click on the podcast button.